Let me correct some of the facts that Mr. Noble just stated here. We moved 4 of our task force, or rather of our narcotics people, out to the field so that they could be station detectives. We had a rash of burglaries that were happening down in South Riding, and we felt as though it would be good to get our detectives integrated with the communities that they serve. They work with the patrol deputies, they work with the crime prevention people, community resource officers. We've had a major impact on property crimes by assigning our station detectives to the stations. What we did do is we took 4 people that had been at the narcotics task force for quite a long time, and we felt that change of scenery is probably good sometimes. I think people can get into positions sometimes, and every once in a while you got to move them around. So that's exactly what we did. We moved them around. What we did do after that was we brought in the rapid response unit to augment what was going on with our narcotics unit so that they could do a lot more of the street surveillance, do a lot more of the jump out sort of activities, and that's what we tried to do, is augment that. So we actually took a unit that was already supplementing in patrol and the SWAT unit, and we ended up actually migrating them over to the task forces rather to the narcotics unit to help out there. So there was a bit of a net loss, but it was not the loss that Mr. Noble's trying to claim. We do have task forces. We have a lot of small task forces, which really are not task forces, they're just collateral duties that our deputies are on, so that they get assets and funding and help when they need to investigate something that's out of the ordinary. So those are not full-time task forces. Our full-time task force deputies are actually the same as they were before. We have 4 assigned full-time to task forces. We have 2 on a HIDTA task force, which is a drug enforcement task force. We have 1 on a state police task force, and we have 1 on the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force. All very, very important task forces, and we've been very, very successful with the work that we've done. The beauty of working in task forces is what I mentioned earlier. In order to get the biggest bang for your buck, when you work with them, and I have to correct also the case that he made, that Mr. Noble talked about being a street-level case. It was a street-level case that we had our biggest seizure here. It was off of a traffic stop that developed into a much bigger case, but that could not have been done without the systems in place that the Drug Enforcement Administration have and the FBI have in place that enable us to access computer data and be able to tie drug traffickers in to bigger organizations. I was at a Loudoun Young Republicans committee, and I heard my opponent state that hey, I don't care what happens in Baltimore. I only care what happens here in Loudoun County. Well, I can tell you in Baltimore, we have identified a drug trafficker in Baltimore that supplied the drugs that killed somebody here in Loudoun County. So what happens in Baltimore does impact what happens here. What happened in New York 2 weeks ago impacts what happened here. We can't get that done without cooperation amongst all of us.